All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the workshop on Google Classroom and Google Tools. My name is Scott Lemmon. I've been a Cherokee tribal citizen. I'm a Cherokee tribal citizen, and I've been in the IT world for over 30 years. And I'm also been a Google Earth Outreach trainer for over a decade. We're going to go over Google Classroom and some other tools. We're going to go kind of at a quick pace, so I want to make sure that you're all able to reach out to me afterwards. And of course, this video will be shared online after the event as well. So let me just get a slide fired up here for us. All right, why is this workshop important to you? Well, the Cherokee Nation wanted me to talk about Google Classroom because that is a preferred tool that they would like you to use, and it's also a free tool from Google, which has a lot of benefits to using it. Right down that website, there's also going to be a reference sheet that's going to be sent out to you with all these different web links that I'm going to be talking about. And you can reference that email. You can reach out to me after the workshop for help with something that you didn't understand or need a little extra help with, or something that maybe I went over a little too fast. We're going to do the introduction, a quick overview of Google Classroom, detailed overview of Google Classroom. So I'm kind of going to browse over it quickly to give you an idea about what Google Classroom is about, and then go into a little more detail, then share some apps that work good with Google Classroom, then some other collaboration tools, Google and non-Google tools that would be beneficial to use, and then cover some Google mapping if we have some time there, which has some really good communication tools as well. Just a little tidbit, there's a lot of information flying around there on the internet, so I just grabbed one study. It's just showing a lot of people are going online and using these kind of tools and working online, especially with the pandemic going on. But you can see how the numbers are rising. The youth definitely are used to communicating this way, and more of our elders are getting involved. So it's really important to be able to learn how to use these tools and start using them. They're not as difficult as they sometimes seem. Once you get used to them, it's really valuable tools to use. Okay, Google Classroom is what we're talking about. And if you're logged into a Gmail account, and I'll kind of go into that a little later, but you just call up Google Classroom, and it's a free service. You don't have to use the suite, but you can go directly to Classroom and start using some of the tools. It's the best learning management at no cost. Works anywhere, anytime, and on any device. And that's one of the great things about it is you can use your phone. You can be on the go and still take advantage of these tools. So it's basically, you want to use this as it is appropriate for your organization. It's the same kind of stuff a lot of the teachers use, especially, in pandemic times, using these tools to provide a setting where you can share videos and provide feedback and share information or work together. There's some tools that you can definitely use to work together to actually manage your group or organization. And so I don't want you to get thrown off by Google Classroom. That title, it actually has a lot of uses if you start exploring it. If you're logged into your Gmail account, you'd create a class. And remember, this is just a quicker overview. It generates a code. So anyone you want to join your group, you can send them a code and then they can join and be a part of your group. That's what a code would look like. In your account, there's different types of classrooms that have been set up, so you'd be able to view the different classrooms that you belong to. Stream is what you have there, what you have on a front page where you have a lot of conversation that can go back and forth and everybody can see your conversation. It's like a nice private Facebook account is one way to look at it. This is just an example. You can hop on your mobile phone and make use of it. Course resources, and again, I'm just browsing through this quick at this moment. Course resources, anything you set up for people to share it for people, then they can click on these links and learn a little bit more about what they need to do. You can create assignments and you type in this information with the title and you type in the instructions and then you assign it. share it on your Google Drive. Everything, all the incoming information is actually going to Google Drive. So that's where your information is being saved. You can also have documents on your Google Drive and share them directly with people that you want it to be shared with. Let's see. You can share YouTube videos, say that there's some Cherokee Nation videos out there that you want people to view. You know, it can be kind of difficult keeping track of all the different organizations popping up on YouTube, and you might miss something. So here's a good place where you can gather up videos and share those videos, and then check to see if everybody in your group is watching them, if you actually want to assign watching them. It's just an option there for you. You can save a draft, which means you don't have to immediately send it out. They also have a grading system in here. I'm not going to go into detail about that because there's a lot of different mathematics that goes on if you want to weigh something compared to something else. It may not be useful to all of you, so there's just no reason to go over great detail. But if you need some help with that, don't hesitate to email me and I can show you how that's done. But I think what's most important is that you're able to share this information online and assign some things. You can have people type up some things, or if you need some letters from different peoples in your organizations, they can type them up and share them. And this is what it would look like. You'd have everybody that would be in your class, and they would have their different documents that they would share. And you can score them if you need to. Another thing is you can jump into a document and you can make references about something that's in there. Say maybe you were working on a grant, and that's a lot of hard work. That's very time consuming. Maybe you need everybody in your group to contribute something. So you can go in and look and highlight something, whoever's in charge, the moderator, and make some comments. But that also works for other people in the group as well. Maybe you'd want to change it or say something a little bit differently. And that's kind of an example there where somebody can grade something, but also contribute something. So just don't think of it as a classroom tool. Think of other things that you can use it with. There's the grade. Then you can return it to somebody. Just a reminder, you can use it on your iPhone and your Android phone. And this is just kind of a view of what it would look like on your phone and reading the papers. And of course, you can expand it and zero in so you can see a little bit better. And you can provide some feedback. Okay, so now what we'll do is I'll just show you a little bit more about hopping in there to your account. You'd want a Google account, and I'll hit on that in a minute. But basically, if you have a Gmail account, you have a Google account. If you just open up a Gmail account, it's the same difference. You don't have to use the email if you're not a Google fan, but you can still use these tools, and email comes with it. If we look up here in the corner, on the right side, you have this, you know, the little 9 dots over there. And if you click on those 9 dots, there's a ready available link to Classroom right there. At the same time, if you are online and you've logged into your Gmail, just jump over and type in Google Classroom and you're still going to get there. But a lot of these free tools are put right there, easy jump off point from your email. So when you start a Google Classroom, this is the first page you'll see. If it's your first time in there, it'll want you to create something. So you just go over to the plus mark over in the corner, and you can click to create a class or join someone else's class. Then there's just the terms of service. And then you can name your class. If you're the one setting it up, this is important. Name your class, section, subject, room. Some of the information you might want to put in, some you don't probably really need in your circumstance. So I set myself up as a teacher because I just created that classroom. And then we'd have students that would join and then they would appear here. I can send out an invitation here. If I send anybody this code, and I can invite them to join this particular group, and that's all they need. So you can invite. So this is one way I invited. I have a different email there that I created to show you. Generated it, and I can just, this is just in my contacts list, and I can click on it. And then once I click on it, this is what it would look like in that email account. Hey, I got an invitation to join this Cherokee community. Then I have the option to join the class. And then this is the first page I'd see upon joining. I'd want to continue, get a little introductory there and another option to join. And then when I join, I see that, hey, look, I'm the teacher up there to this particular class. And I'm looking around. You see, you have the stream up there where you have where you can jump in and have online conversations that'll be saved. You have the classwork option. There's no classwork set up at this point here, and you can jump over and see the other people. It's really just about exploring because there's about options that you may or may not need. So you can't damage anything. Just click around and get the hang of that. So I jump back to the stream, Cherokee community. I'm viewing some updates here. I want to create an announcement. I'm back in the teacher mode here because I want to be able to create an announcement. I can share old announcements. I see that I have one student, which was me because I just joined a second ago. I can post something now, or I can plan ahead and time something, say that there's going to be a video coming out next week or some information that I want shared. We can hop on over and put a time on there for it to actually appear. So you don't have to be completely involved at every moment to make something appear on the site. Typed in this in the stream, it's what everybody would see. Welcome to the Cherokee community, and I'll have our first language lesson posted soon. So think about in terms of that, if you'd want to share language as well. What a perfect opportunity to use Classroom to share some lessons that are online or share some lessons that you have. And that's a good way to assign them and try to get everyone to have them done in a certain period of time. Because, you know, we all have good intentions and we want to learn more about everything, especially the Cherokee language, but then you get busy. Well, if you have a little bit more of a boost and you have some assignments and you have some goals and you're working together online with another group of people, there's a lot more motivation there to move ahead, not only on language assignments, but on grant assignments or anything else that you want to work with as a group. You can track individuals' progress. I can create different things as a teacher. Got a Google Calendar option. So if you create something there, it pops up in a calendar, which then anyone who's using Google, they'll get little reminders that, hey, look, you have this coming up that's due on this particular date. I can add materials. This is just a view of my Google Drive, which is integrated with the Classroom, share some information, and be able to post it directly to Classroom if I like. And it's only what's being shared from your drive is what you choose to share it. You have a little folder in there where you'd be able to pick and choose what you'd like to share publicly. Under create, look at all these options you have: assignment, quiz assignment, questions, and material. Each one has its own little way of doing things. And really you just want to explore. And because it's really set up with you, there's a lot of prompts in there that tells you what your next step would be. Again, we're getting into the scoring. I don't want to do that because that would be time consuming and you may not all have a use for that. So that's a little more on scoring. Under assignments, you see I have some options. I could share a document. If you're writing or working on a grant, you could share that in your Google Drive. If you're sharing the link that there's something that's been released from the nation and you want to be able to share that, or an important document, you have that under file, or a latest YouTube video from the nation that you might want to share with the group. Those are all options there that you can turn into assignments. You can look up here. I click YouTube. You can research where the video is, and when you find the video that you want, you can click it, and that will add the video right there in your Google Classroom. So you have that video. You can make that an assignment and see if everybody gets a chance to look at it, or have point system set up if you'd like to do that. So there's another view of it once it's been assigned. That's another thing about the rubric that kind of shows you that it does get a little time consuming there. But if you need a grading system, let me know and we'll go over that in more detail in private. Oh, and that was just over here on the right. I assigned a due date. So rather than just post a video and walk away and say, well, I shared it with the group, I'm going to prompt you that I wanted you to watch that video by today. And if you're in your Google Gmail account, you'd get a little reminder that, hey, don't forget about that video. We need to get that done today because we got other videos to move on to. Quiz assignment, you click on quiz and you have an opportunity to create a quiz. So I created a little Cherokee language lesson. And it really, you know, things have really changed over time. In the world of IT, this used to be a lot of coding to be able to set something like this up. And now they've really got some prompts there for you where you can make some really sophisticated things like a quiz and just fill in the blanks. So I'm selecting multiple choice question. I'm saying, okay, I'm going to do, what's the word for water? And there I have these different options. And I'm telling the computer, hey, this is the correct answer. And then I can save that. And then people can come and take the tests and make their selection about what the right answer is. And this actually drops over, the results of the test actually drop over in your Google Drive. There would be a spreadsheet that would suddenly, be created, and it would start recording everyone's results to see how they're doing. You can also drag and drop some lessons in there. Here's another look at the grades if you're trying to keep track of that. If you want to assign points, you may not think of it grades. You may think of it in terms of points and reward points. That's something that's always really big, and I can tell you it definitely clicks with the youth when you give them points. Points for anything. They like to collect points. So that's part of the motivation too. So don't just think about, I don't need this tool. I've done it this other way for many years and that'll be fine. Well, you want to reach out. A lot of the youth are out there online. And like I said, more of the elders are getting online. So you want to take advantage of these tools. The tools are as valuable as you make them. If you create it and you don't use it, then it's not really worth anything. But if you look at it and you go, what can I use this for? How can this benefit our group or what I want to do with it? And you start exploring these options, then you realize there's some tools there that if you put in the effort, that there will be great advantages to using it. You can return some lessons all at the same time if you want to. That's an option, to send things back to everyone if they've submitted a document. Create a question. Here's where I'm just popping out a question. So right there in the stream, there's going to be an announcement that, Scott's posted a question. Who invented the Cherokee syllabary? And share one interesting fact about the inventor. So even me asking this question that I was going to turn around and answer turned out to be a challenge, because it's like, well, now I need to go find an interesting fact. So I also shared this video and I said, well, watch this video. And, I think this particular video, you might be able to learn some interesting facts. So I added that. It generated a form where everybody's responses are going to come in. And as you can see, as I've been setting all this up, I got a history lesson there. I got the extra credit. That's what I called the question, who invented the Cherokee syllabary, and an interesting fact. The Cherokee language there, Cherokee language quiz, Let's Talk Cherokee. That was a video that I shared a while ago. So all these things that I've kind of, gone through pretty quick, it's just automatically generated that easy into a form to share with everyone. So that's where you really want to explore. Student view, you can see this as the teacher role. You can see, okay, look, I posted the study material, I posted the question, I posted the language quiz, posted the Let's Talk Cherokee video, and it all shows up in the stream. So all your students that are logging on, all your community members that are logging on can see all these different options of what's been created. So if I was the student, this is what I'd see. Well, let me go over and see what's in that Cherokee classroom. Click on that, and I'd start seeing the different options that I have. Okay, these are the assignments that were made. So not only are they in the stream, but they're showing up there in my feed that they've been assigned to me. So I watched the Let's Talk Cherokee video, and I decide how I want to answer it. I have an assignment there, Cherokee words to go over. Click on my blank quiz, and there's that quiz that I created a while ago, and you see that there's no answer right there. So I'm really going to have to do the quiz and make my selection. So I make a selection, and then I hit submit, and then it tells me whether I'm right or wrong. So this is the student view right here. It's the question, you answer, you find out if you're correct, and then you view your score at the end. So the extra credit question, This is what I learned. He called the paper white men use to communicate talking leaves. So they're in kind of a fun environment. If you've created something, even you have somebody participating, look what I learned just by prompting this assignment. You know, all these videos and all this information exists out there, and we kind of get used to it being out there on the web for some time if we need it. Or we have information in our community that we're like, well, we sent an email 6 months ago about that. You know, you want to have it in a place where people can go back to it, and people come along at different times and can get caught up on what's going on. So it could be your meeting notes. It could be a video online. Just think about all the different ways that you can use this. All your documentation, you can keep some of it private that you need private. You can share what you need with the public that can be shared. Share that with the public. Give them a place where they know to go to, rather than, well, I think that was on Facebook, or I think I got an email about it, or that was a text that I got on my phone, or somebody just told me on the phone one day. You know, have a resource where you can share all this information for your organization or whatever way you want to use this particular tool. This is where I can type in my information. I can check my to-do list, just some other features, view the calendar again. It tells me that all this was due today that I created. Okay, now we're going to get into apps that work with Google Classroom. So that was pretty basic, and they like to keep it basic because we don't want you to be intimidated by all these different options. And it's a little overwhelming at first, and it probably doesn't help that I moved through as quickly as I did, but I don't want to drag everything out and you go, okay, well, now I know how to start the computer and get there. That's all I learned from that workshop. I want you to be able to go back and look at these tools and explore these tools. But what we get when we get into apps is a lot of different options that really expand on these tools, the foundation tools in Google Classroom. Pear Deck is one of them. And it's a really good way of turning a presentation into something more interactive. It's like, well, you just throw a Google slide deck out there, you just throw some information and you let it set. Well, what if you need to make sure that everyone is aware of something, or there's some information you want everyone to learn, or you're trying to say, let's just learn, 10 words in Cherokee this week, but I just don't want to set that out there and then just leave it and go, okay, well, good luck. We want to be able to have some interaction. And Pear Deck is one of the good ways to create some interaction with Google Slides. And I'll talk a little bit more about Google Slides here as we get to that slide. Another one, Classcraft. And remember, there's a link, a sheet that should be going out to you all that has all these different website links that you can go back and reference. This was just another tool where you can expand and go into more detail. Don't be intimidated that you see kids on these, a lot of these images, because it's about learning, and it's about learning at any age, and it's about sharing information. Kami, another good one, a lot more interaction, digital classroom app. This one's more into documentation and being able to interact in a particular document, saying you're trying to, really put something together. I showed you a while ago that you could work on a grant and you could add a little bit of information to each other and make comments. Well, this takes it up to the next level. Now, a lot of these tools will have costs, but the majority of them, for what you would probably need it for, would be the free version. So don't get immediately intimidated if they're trying to prompt you to purchase something. If the free versions will do the trick for you, then stick with the free versions. Quiz is another one. A lot more interaction if you wanted to do a group quiz. As that quiz I did a while ago was just me on my own and I was clicking on things. Well, let's make it more interactive. Let's make sure everyone gets it done. I can assign it, but what if you don't do it? Okay, well, what if we're going to meet at 6 o'clock and I say, hey, let's have a quiz over those words. No harm, no foul if you don't know, but we're not going to learn things if we don't do things. Explain Everything. This is another good one, a very interactive tool. And like I said, once you start exploring these tools, you'll see how they are collaboration tools with the Google Classroom and how you can incorporate them. This one's more about Flipgrid, more about video interaction. It's kind of a version of Zoom or Google Hangouts, whatever works for you. But this one's really set up for let's have a video classroom going on. This is another one, everything in one place. This is more of a whiteboard tool. This is where you can really share a lot of information and throw out some ideas, some graphs, some objects, if that makes sense. It's really open to letting you share content in a non-restricted way, whiteboard manner. Okay, additional options are online tools. This is just a reminder of these other tools. I'm sure you've heard of this thing called Twitter. That's another online resource that you can definitely use to keep in touch. Zoom, what we're using right now. There is Google Hangouts, which I'm going to reference. But when it comes to Google products, use whatever works for you. If you're like, well, Scott, I don't really care for Google Hangouts. Well, if Zoom works for you, use Zoom. That's great. That's what a lot of people are using. So use whatever tools work for you. I'm about introducing tools that are helpful to you to get your goal done. Not about just getting your goal done with Google tools, but getting your goals done. And you can still use Zoom and Google Classroom. You're just using, different services that's out there for you to use. Hey Space is another nice one. You might explore that. It's kind of like an ongoing stream, kind of like what we had, in Google Classroom, but allows for some other levels of interaction. So it's Hey Space. And again, remember, there should be a worksheet. If there's not a worksheet, but a reference sheet coming out to you. If you don't get it, send me an email and I'll send it to you directly, where all these website, links are going to be there for you to reference. Miro, another kind of a whiteboard, brainstorming website where you can use to work together. Glip is another collaboration tool. I'd say it's kind of more like the whiteboard and also the streaming, the ability to talk live with one another in chat. The Yammer is another collaborative tool, and this one's from Microsoft. So it's another kind of whiteboard tool. It has a lot of options, definitely worth exploring. Flowlu, more business management. It may be, if you're, organization, maybe your actual nonprofit, this would be the next step for you to have a little bit more where you're going to have to handle some financing and invoicing and work on some business projects. Facebook is also an option. I just say that because I wanted to remember to tell you, like in our Cherokee community, we have our public site in Kansas City. We have our public site, but we also have a site set up for the board members so that they can share ideas and share information and talk about release dates and items like that. So just think that you can have more than one Facebook account and use it for different purposes like that. So then that way, when something is talked about and created, then we can move ahead and go, okay, now let's post it live out there on the public Facebook site. Google tools that definitely supplement Google Classroom. Now here, if you just type in Google account, if you don't have anything related to Google, it's the equivalent of setting, I always think of Gmail, but you're really just creating a Google account. And it's a free service. Everything that I've talked about so far, I'm going to talk about, is a free service. Although if you're really getting into a high level of business, there's definitely services that you can pay for more options. But I think all these free services would be a really good start for everyone to take advantage of. So you're just creating a Google account. And that does not mean you're stuck with a Gmail to use as your email, but you're creating an account, which is free. And then I have an account. So I log into my Gmail account, and then that gives me access to all these tools. If you remember earlier over there on the right, the 9 little dots I clicked on, I can jump right to these items. Once I'm logged into my Google account, I'm online in this online environment where now I'm also in my Google Drive. So I may just be looking at my Gmail, but if I open up another tab and type in Google Drive and click on Google Drive, or go up to my navigation bar and click the link there, you are looking at your particular Google Drive of information where your online and stuff is being saved. And when it comes to these Google items, these Google apps and products, once you're logged in to your account, you have access to that, just like with the Google Classroom. So Google Drive is something that you can use to create documents. You can create folders or individual documents if you like. You can share them with individuals. You can share them with a group, or you can keep them completely private. You have a lot of different options on that. Now, if someone shared a drive with you, so like if you have a Cherokee classroom that you want to share, you can share that with a student, and when you click on share drives, you can see the information that's been shared with you. So you're actually looking into the folders they want to share with you on their particular drive. Then you can look at it. We got the priorities there that shows you what you want to, it kind of shows you different tabs of places that you can jump to. And this is just a reminder here that, you know, hey, you can do it on your desktop, you can do it on your phone, you can do it on your laptop. That's one great thing about it is if I'm doing a presentation on a laptop and I went somewhere and I remember there's something that I want to change, then I can just pull out my phone and then make the changes directly there on the phone. It's very integrated for these 3 different environments. If you want to create something in Drive, you click on New, File Upload. Kind of shows you what it looks like on both sides. Let's see. You have Google Slides there. You have a document that you can create. Type in Google Slides. You can create Google Slides. Campaign Overview. This is just a document. You can share documents. You choose who you share it with. And like I said, there's the links up there to a lot of these different tools where once you're logged in, you can jump right to them. Google Classroom, Google Sites. This is one that I definitely recommend for sharing information. They've been upgraded. It's easier than ever for you to create a website on your own. And when you think website, that doesn't mean that you're necessarily representing an organization. You could create a website where you're sharing about the language. You can create a website where you're sharing about your hobbies. You can just create as many different things as you want, and they're all free to create. Google Hangouts, just wanted to let you know that's also an option if you want to do a video call or a phone call with someone. YouTube, of course, that is a Google product, so it's really integrated. If you want to share a video, share a presentation, definitely use YouTube. Share your information. You may not want to sit here and create documents all the time. Maybe you just want to grab your phone and videotape yourself saying something and saying, hey, look, this is what I learned today. Pop it up on YouTube, share it in your Google Classroom. Maps is an option, and if we have time here, I want to leave 5 minutes at least here at the end to answer any questions, but I'm going to try to get to some Google Maps because that's a great communication tool as well. Google also has messages. That's an option. If you've used Facebook messages or other message service, it's another version of that that's more integrated into the Google tools. Google Duo, that happens to be free at the moment. It's a higher quality, more option video calling system if you want to use that to communicate with people. Google Chat, again, that's a chat service that's more integrated into Google Tools. Google Photos, remember to visit that. You can share anything you want, especially photos, and share them with your audience. Calendar, Google Calendar. And remember, these are all jumping off options there in your Google account where you can jump over and definitely explore, play with these different tools and see what works for you. Gmail, of course. Google Docs is an option. If you want to type up something and share it with the group, that's where you can create it, is Google Docs. And that's kind of what is you've seen earlier in Google Classroom. You're creating a document. When you create a document, you are using Google Docs. And when you're sharing the document, it's automatically being loaded into your Google Drive to share from there. So a lot of this stuff is going on in the background, but they're also independent tools that you can use. Google Slides, just like PowerPoint, think PowerPoint, but they definitely have some more options, and it's more right there live on the web for you if you needed to share something. Google Drive I've talked about. Google Sheets, that was a while ago when I told you the results automatically populate into a form. It's creating a Google Sheet. So if you need a spreadsheet for your organization for any reason, and you want to share that information, share some results or whatever you can use that kind of a database for, then Sheets would be your option. Analytics, especially if you have Google Sites going on, go over and check out Analytics, because that gives you a lot of information about where your visitors are coming from or how many people are visiting your website. And if you check it out, you're going to be surprised about just how much information there is and how useful that information can be for you, and all the different elements that are shared with the person running the organization or the website. Google My Business, that is something definitely you can use if you actually are a business organization. There's a lot of tools there. So you're thinking in terms of customers, but it's definitely still worth exploring whether you have a business or not. Go and look up Google My Business, because a lot of these topics, Google for government, Google for nonprofits, Google for business, there are variations of these different tools that I'm sharing with you. And when I say variations of these different tools, they're tools that are available free to you. If you're getting on some high-end stuff, there might be some elements there where you'd want to upgrade, but there's a lot of these tools, basic tools that are available for free to use to communicate. Google Keep, that's kind of like a whiteboard. Kind of, I showed you those other apps a while ago. This one's kind of a whiteboard where you can just kind of toss some things out there. Google for nonprofits, I definitely look at that website if you're a nonprofit organization. There's some tools, higher level tools that you can get for free. If you need some help with this, I've definitely set this up before for organizations. It's definitely worth looking into for the advantages that your organization can have if you're declared a nonprofit organization. Google Domains, I wanted to throw this in because sometimes really the most intimidating thing about a website, because I've done them for decades for people, is the idea that the website name is different than your website. You create a website and it just kind of sits there. It generates a name for you automatically that you can use, but it's not as catchy. It's just kind of an extension. If you create a website name, so scott.org, and that's available, then in Google Domains, you can purchase that name and then assign it to your website. So suddenly, you know, you have a website that is easy to get to is Amazon.com, because you've created yourself a name and you've linked your website to it, and it makes it a little bit easier to advertise your website. Google Domains. All right, I think we're doing good on time. I'm going to do some Google mapping and communication tools. There's been a lot of upgrade in the Google Earth that you can use these tools to really share some things. Use them as a communication tool. Let me show you an example here. Here's a video. This is the new Google Earth. Used to be an application that you'd have to have on your computer. Now it's just a website you go to, and you can create some great things just by going to the website. So here we are. I'm looking over San Francisco, but I want to go to Tahlequah. Let's see. So we're going over to Tahlequah from San Francisco. You can create any starting point you want, and there's some information up there about the Cherokee Heritage Center. Okay, well, where's the Cherokee Heritage Center? Let me click on that. All right, it's taking me right there on the map to where the Heritage Center is. So now I have an idea of where that's at. Now, this information you see up there, this just isn't something that was, you know, created and put out there by just the organization. I mean, this was, but you can create your own now. You can use these tools to create something, share something about your community, share important points. When it comes to your community, maybe there's different places in the community that you want to share. Well, here's where we meet. And here's an important American Indian spot in our community that we want to share with you. And here's why this area is historically significant. This is the tribes that used to live in this particular area, which you just may know by a city name. So you are sharing this information. And it tells us different locations of what's going on, you know, different locations that are important in Tahlequah. Now let me show you the next level that everything is slowly moving to. Let me get this reduced. There we go. There's also 3D imagery that's slowly coming online for different communities. So right here, Kansas City has already gone 3D. I started over there in Europe, and now I'm hopping right here. I want to go to the Union Station. Now you see, now we're not just doing the 2D anymore. Now we have some, three-dimensional imagery that we can use, which gives us even better perspective on things. Now I've assigned this tour and I'm sharing some information with you about it, but at any time someone can jump into the map and start exploring this area. You're not just stuck with the task of forced to view what I want you to view. It's like, this is what I want you to see, but if you're like, hey, well, what's that National World War I memorial about over there? Then you can jump in and jump over there and explore that. And you can explore it from different angles. Now I grabbed the map fellow, and when I grabbed him, it showed some blue lines. And when it showed some blue lines, that meant that I can drag him and drop him right into the map, and I dropped him right in front of Union Station, and I can see exactly what it looks like as I was above it looking in 3D. Now I can do that, and then I have the option of clicking on the arrows and moving around. So I can really do some exploring of a particular area. So that is what I wanted to show you with that. Let's see if it saved where I was at. Let me jump back over here into my presentation. So we're right here. So definitely explore Google Earth. Voyager is another place. It was limited there for a while, but it's starting because it was a new tool. And so now more and more people are able to use Voyager, and that's really where you're really showcasing. You're creating a site basically where you are sharing information, taking people on tours of Google Earth, certain locations that you want. So it's an opportunity to create and share, and storytelling. That's key. Is thinking about in terms of storytelling. You just don't want to use the maps to just go, okay, well, this is how I find this location. Think about how you can incorporate it. And if you create something and you need some help, then definitely contact me. Or if we create anything, related to the Cherokee Nation, let me know, and I can get Google to share it on different levels so that it can be shared with the public and get more attention. It's Google Earth and storytelling, indigenous mapping examples. This is just another example of a creation celebrating indigenous languages. Another view of the map where you're sharing images. You can share photos, you can share text. This is what you want to say. This isn't always about just going out and, oh, this is a good resource, let me copy this and share this. This is about you creating something. It's about you telling your story. Tell the story of your organization here. Share some photos, share the locations that you're talking about. And if you look there, you can see it works on the phone as well. It's very integrated with the phone. This particular one, what's in a name? Canada's original place names. And I've always liked projects like this in Canada where they go through, and share the words that were used for these locations by the tribes that lived there. And telling the story and sharing the story. These stories get lost if we don't share them. And Google Earth is a great way to share some of these tools. You can see here a photo was shared, zoomed in more on a location. Here is the building where this particular event happened, for an example. The school, Earth Voyager. And again, you'll have it on the reference sheet, but just type in Google Earth Voyager and explore that. Creation in Google Earth. Let me just show you some images here. So what we did a while ago when we were creating something, we jump over there to that navigation wheel as you had that open. And then this is where you can create. You can create the projects from scratch and share the views. You can actually decide what angle you want to share, what dimension that you want to share when you're telling your story, and save that and then start telling your story. So you can zoom way in or you can zoom way out. It's wherever you want to set it. So here's one done on Stonehenge. Save your project, Stonehenge. And then you type in your text. You create use the icons that you want to use, and there's even an option to create your own icons. And you can share this, present and share. That tells you about the data privacy. These maps are yours that you are creating. You can share them with just who you want to share them with. It's not like it has to be shared with everyone in the world all of a sudden. If you decide to share it, then share it with the world, or share it with just the groups that you want to share it with. Some more information shows you how to create the project. And we're getting closer on time here, so let me speed up a little bit. But you're going to get the gist here. You can see that you are just walking through and creating the locations and the information that you want to save. It's really designed to help you put in the information you want, do something really high tech by filling in the blanks and also zooming in to what you want to zoom in, share your photos, whatever kind of photos that you want to share, choose the icons you want, capture the view that you want. Here's the part where in the end you're asked to share and make it public. Just anyone with a link, so you share it with whoever you want to. They have to have a link to be able to find it, or just share it with specific people. Maybe you're just creating something for your own family. Then just share, send it to your family members, and they're the only ones that are going to be able to see it. It just shows you the different options there. Icons you can use. You can definitely zero in on a certain location. And this is a little more advanced, but you can add in some more technical data on another level there if you want to. And you can draw some areas, say you're just talking about a particular area. So for example, if you're sharing a sacred site, you may not want to go, the sacred site is right here. You may just want to say, this area, this part of the country, is where, we have a sacred site or something like that. This is just a good example of Google Maps, another tool that you can definitely use. And again, you're logged into it. Just type in Google Maps. Google My Maps is what's important. Google Maps will actually, give you your business and community and everything. Google My Maps is where you go to create your own particular maps, and again, share them with who you want. So for example, in this particular map, I zoomed in on this town where I have a lot of family, and there's different things that I can do. I can add some old family video. I know that, hey, this is the location where my grandparents met. This is where my grandmother lived, my grandfather lived. This is a particular place that was important to them. This is where they got married. And you can just tour this whole area. Now think about that in terms of not just what you can do personally with it, but what you can do for your organization or for your hobby or for whatever you are sharing that you want to share with the world. Google Tour Builder is another option. Type in Google Tour Builder when you're logged on into Google, and you can create, it's basically a slide deck that enables you to take people on a tour to different places in the world. Let's see, just a couple more minutes here before we go to Q&A. But this is an example of celebrating indigenous language. There was Cherokee represented here, and it's got all these points on here of all these different communities, and sharing some information about the different communities and sharing, some audio. So there's lots of different things that you can share. And what's really cool about this is it's not just, this is a great link that you can go to and explore, but these are things that you can create on your own, and you can be creative. Like I said, think in terms of storytelling. All right, we got to a Q&A point. I think my moderator here is going to forward some questions for me. I'm still working on my website. I'm updating it. There's not a whole lot there, but you can find me there because I'm going to keep updating it because I do a lot of different things, and I decided to make one website for everything. So right now it just says test. What's most important is you have my email address so you can reach out to me. Have any questions?
All right, thank you, Scott. Yeah, if you have any questions, now is the time. You can ask a question using the Q&A feature, or I could check the chat feature as well. So if you have any questions, please feel free. Oh, we have one here. What do we have? Does everyone have to have a Gmail account to join Google Classroom?
Yeah, you definitely want a Google account, and it's free, and you can just use it for Google Classroom. So I've shown you all these tools that you can use, but you can only use the tools that work for you. So if you're like, oh, I just want to get into Classroom, well, go to Google account, type that in on your search engine, create an account just by filling in a few pieces of information. You've created an account, then hop on over to Google Classroom and you're in there.
Jackie Tyler has a question. So, do you share by Google emails?
Yeah, that's one way to do it. You can share by a link. You don't have to have a Google email to share the link. So you can kind of not use Google for that respect. But otherwise, I've just gotten so used to using Google email myself that I hadn't really ever thought twice about that. But if you're just sharing links, you don't really need to do anything except share a link via whatever email you choose to use.
Just want to let everybody know that he has forwarded me a list of resources available. You can actually find those if you log into the desktop version of the conference. It's actually a PDF there that you can download. And there's a lot of information and a lot of links pertaining to his presentation. Is there any other questions?
And I didn't want you to all get overwhelmed, but I wanted to share as much as possible. I value your time and don't want to get stuck on one note. I want to share all the different notes because you can make beautiful music by putting all these notes together. And when you look at that reference sheet, you're going to go, oh, I remember that name. He referenced that. Or here's the link to these tools, and here's the link to that. Just do some exploring. And like I said, don't hesitate to send me an email and ask me some questions. I don't want to just do a workshop and then say, good luck, see you later. I want to be able to follow up. I want you to be able to create something. I want you to use these tools. I want you to be able to share your stories and thrive, especially in these times where we're stuck more on Zoom meetings than being able to meet in person. So don't hesitate to contact me and ask me some questions.
Is there any other questions? Anybody else out there have a question? Scott, I'll ask a question here. Do you know about how often Google Maps updates their images?
You know, I think they do it probably once. You know, it depends on the areas. Really, they've kind of changed things. I'm thinking about how they used to do it. Really, at this point, if you find a location, everything's in the queue to get updated. And I think a lot of attention has gone towards getting things upgraded to 3D more than just upgrading the images that are out there. So to play it safe, I would say that if you're visiting an image and you look down in the corner, it's going to tell you when that image is from. So you're really going to, depending on where you go on the map, you're going to get a whole array of different dates. So what's best to do, you can contact me, or there's usually an option on there to reach out to Google and say, hey, how about an upgrade of this particular location? So really, as soon as I tell you, oh yeah, they're updating it once a year, then you're going to go to some isolated place where it's like, well, this information's 5 years old. So it's really about communication. And just look at the bottom of the map to see when that last date is, and then put in a request for an upgrade, updated images. And they're pretty good at getting some updated images out there.
All right. Thank you for such a thorough presentation. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, please feel free to reach out to Scott, and feel free to download the PDF that's attached to the desktop version of this particular session. All the links that he was talking about, and probably some more, are there as well. So with that, I think we're pretty close to being out of time. Scott, thank you. Do you have any last things you might want to say before we log off here?
I just thank you everybody for joining me, and I hope you picked up on something useful, and contact me if you need anything.
Sounds good. And we appreciate you, and we appreciate all the participants as well. So please feel free to browse around, and we still got a lot of conference to go today. So we are just moving along. Once again, well done, Scott, for everything that you've done for us. All right.
Bye-bye.
We'll see y'all.